Why are Megyn Kelly and Jane Fonda feuding? What a weird sentence I just said to you, but here is what's happening. So back in September, Jane Fonda went on Megyn Kelly's show to promote her movie with Robert Redford, Our Souls at Night, and Megyn Kelly asked her the following question. You've been an example to everyone in how to age beautifully and with strength and unapologetically. You admit you've had work done, which I think is to your credit, but you look amazing. I read that you said you're not proud to say you've had work done. Why not? Fonda responded after what is described by CNN, a pause, and changed the subject back to her movie saying, good attitude, good posture, I take care of myself, but let me tell you why I love this movie that we did, Our Souls at Night, rather than plastic surgery. Now, it could have just ended there, but it's come up again because when Jane Fonda was at the Sundance Film Festival in Utah, she was asked about this to promote her movie, Jane Fonda in 5 Acts, which is a documentary about her. And she says, I was stunned by the plastic surgery question. This is what she told to Variety. It was so inappropriate, it showed that she's not a good interviewer. And then she said that if she would do another interview with Megyn Kelly if she learns her stuff. And Megyn Kelly, not one to back down, feud of the century, step aside Ja Rule and 50 Cent. Megyn Kelly said on her own show, Megyn Kelly Today, first, some context. Fonda was on to promote a film about aging. For years, she has spoken openly about her joy in giving a cultural face to older women. But I have no regrets about the question. I would love to just do the rest of this quote in a Megyn Kelly weird accent voice.
Megyn Kelly.
Yeah. But I have no regrets about the question, nor am I in the market for a lesson from Jane Fonda on what is and what is not appropriate. After all, this is a woman whose name is synonymous with outrage. It's just such a weird story. I had to do a weird voice. Yeah. And Sophie, we're not editing that out. That's the way that we're going to read that quote. Okay, that is how Megyn Kelly sounds in my head. So this is a really weird story. Amir, do you think that the question that sparked this outrage between these two women
was inappropriate? No, not at all. You're on a talk show, and she justified it by saying, like, Jane Fonda was promoting that movie, Our Souls at Night, which, by the way, I recommend you watch. You've seen it? Yeah, it's a tender. Okay. It's a tender, feel-good movie. I literally was gonna say, you're full of shit. You haven't seen that movie, but you've actually seen it. I told you, and it is about aging. Yes, it's just like it's a geriatric love story. It's the best. Between like two of my favorite people, Jane Fonda and Robert Redford. You know, there's The Notebook too, though. Like that's another geriatric. Well, like just like a little side note. So like, I went like kind of on a binge of old movies, and me and my fiance, we watched a bunch of Jane Fonda, older Jane Fonda and Robert Redford movies, and like, wow. No, they have such good chemistry, and like they're both amazing. And to that point, just really quickly, what we should point out, the reason why this story is so strange, and maybe some of you guys know Jane Fonda from Grace and Frankie, but Jane Fonda is a living legend. She is. And she is from an historic Hollywood family. If anyone is interested in learning more about Jane Fonda, because there's another thing that Megyn Kelly brought up about her, how she isn't patriotic and whatever, and that's sort of like a little jab. Listen to the podcast. You must remember this about it's Joan and Jane. Joan and Jane. It's by Karina Longworth, and it details the life of Jane Fonda. And there are a lot of things that happen in her life that people will point to, and that Megyn Kelly points to, saying that she is a controversial figure and that she's not proud of America, blah, 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 pointing to the controversies surrounding her take on the Vietnam War. And there's something to talk about there, but Megyn Kelly is just sort of undercutting it. That's when Megyn Kelly lost me. I think Megyn Kelly was in the right asking her that question, because look, that is something almost anyone who sees Jane Fonda is thinking about. How does an 80-year-old woman look this amazing? She looks better than many 40-year-old women. Yeah. And I don't think that's an inappropriate question to ask. It sounds like Jane Fonda has like some insecurity about having that question asked about her, and probably it's because she doesn't attribute it all to like plastic surgery, because like she's huge known exercise nut. Huge exercise nut, and I'm sure like that helps a lot. But at the same time, I think it's important for us to point out that like looking like this at 80 years old isn't by any means attainable by most normal people, and a part of that does come down to surgery, to kind of like have a realistic idea of it to the viewers that are watching that. Yeah, she should feel okay to want to talk about that instead of just shutting it down and being like, how dare you? Yeah, I think that maybe it's like a time and place, and I wonder if she was on to promote this movie, and this isn't, I don't know. I'm a huge Jane Fonda fan. She is a living legend.
Me too.
She is an icon. So, and I don't really like Megyn Kelly's show, so I'm not coming into this objective. I really think that when you have someone like that on your show, there's certain questions that you sort of know that they don't want to touch, and at this stage in her life, I would, as your interviewer, you want to let your guest shine. I don't think that at this point you want to like put Jane Fonda in a corner and like, I don't know. I could be really wrong on this. Like maybe it is a totally appropriate question, but if I were in that position, if I were interviewing Jane Fonda, I would have so many better questions to talk to her about, like the breadth of her work and her family. And
I think there are many contexts where asking that question would be more inappropriate, like if it was on a red carpet or something.
Right.
I just feel like in this one, she was on her show. She was doing a show, a promotion about a movie that's about older people.
Yeah.
And like, she looks amazing. Like it's something that I think is on everyone's mind.
I also wonder if perhaps part of why this became so contentious is because of the dynamic. So maybe if Jane Fonda was being interviewed by someone that she has more of a rapport with, she's done interviews with over the years, like Oprah. She's done interviews with Oprah before, and she kind of has some rapport with her, and there's a certain level of respect there. We don't know if she was like, who the fuck is Megyn Kelly asking me this question?
Yeah.
So there could have been some of that in there.
I can't imagine her. Sorry to interrupt you. I can't imagine like if Oprah was interviewing her and she asked that question, I feel like she would answer it.
Oh, that's the thing. Like I think you have to recognize your audience, and I think this was probably a case of two people that just, whatever, they're not vibing with each other, having to do press for a movie.
Yeah. And
then Megyn wants to, she really wants her show to work, so she's throwing out these hot button questions and trying to stay relevant in the news as often as she can. And I think that it was sort of a success for her in that regard, because now we're talking about it. What I really don't like is that later on in this, when she's talking about the controversy with Jane Fonda, she says, by the way, she still says she's not proud of America, so the moral indignation is a little much. She put her plastic surgery out there. She said she wanted to discuss the plight of older women in America, and honestly, she has no business lecturing anyone on what qualifies as offensive. Which is sort of like a touch to when she was denouncing US imperialism and everything during the Vietnam War. And I think that that's such a low jab.
It is.
Because what happens is this, a viewer that doesn't really know much about Jane Fonda and maybe is inclined to just believe everything that Megyn Kelly says will not do further research into why Jane Fonda has been outspoken and a critic of the United States, especially the United States presence abroad. And you can't say that she's not informed. I mean, she has apologized herself on some of the things that she did. She was known as, she was kind of a renegade, and she was overseas, and she went to Vietnam, and there's that famous photo of her, in a, posing in an anti-aircraft gun, which if you, again, listen to this whole podcast about her life, it was really like a 30-second photo shoot thing that wasn't clear. There's just so much more context here, and you know that Megyn is just sort of like taking a swipe at her, knowing that no one's gonna actually do research into what the full scope of Jane Fonda's life is, what led her to come to those beliefs, whether you disagree with them or not, just for her to a blanket statement that she's like, so blah, 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 this is our disagreement. Also, Jane Fonda hates America. Of course you're gonna, you're playing to your audience. I think that was sort of a cheap blow.
Yeah.
But I'd be interested to hear from you guys now. What do you think of this line of questioning? Perhaps if you're not a Jane Fonda fan or you're a Megyn Kelly fan or wherever, you might have a different point of view. And I'd be really interested to hear about this because, again, your girl's not objective. So don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and we'll see you next time on Pop Trigger.